Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So yeah, on this video, guys, I basically want to go over on what it takes to go, full-time as an Amazon seller. Because recently I've had a few guys DM me, through Instagram and whatnot, and they've all had these sort of questions of, hey, just be motivated by watching guys like us basically post all our sales numbers and stuff, and thinking that, I mean, not all of them think it's easy. They know what it probably takes, but also I'm gonna set some expectation as to what to expect to actually achieve going full-time as a reseller. Because a lot of these gurus, they paint a picture that if you invest 5Gs into their course or whatever, you're gonna make that tenfold within a month or so. And truth be told, when you're getting into this business model, you know nothing. Even if you take a course and whatnot, like I've taken a few courses when I first started, you really don't know what the hell you're doing, because you don't know any of the processes that it takes, and actually just diving in and getting to know what it takes to run a business like this, right? Like, you could take a course all you want and learn what they tell you, watch plenty of YouTube videos, but unless you actually do some of the work and just start doing it, you're really not going to understand what half the course even tells you to begin with, right? And so that's one expectation, is you got to start just doing it if you really want to get into this business model. Now, as far as going full time, there's a lot of factors that play into this to actually go full time. So for example, how are your sales doing monthly? Like, are you making barely $1,000 a month in sales? Are you making 10,000, 20,000, 100,000? Like, you got to know what your profit margins are after fees, supplies, software, and just everything that takes monthly costs to run business. Because running this business is not free either. Like, you have to pay just for the seller account itself. You have to pay for a repricer if you can afford it. You have to pay the fees when you make sales. You also have to pay like bookkeeping software if you are considering into doing it and you don't want to do spreadsheets. Supplies. You're gonna need tape, you're gonna need boxes, you're gonna need labels, you're gonna need a printer, you're gonna need a laptop computer if you don't even have one. And so you got to think about those expenses as well, and can you afford to keep them on a monthly basis? Like, I mean, I made a video already before of how much I spend every single month. I already forgot the amount. I think it was like $400 or $500. So again, just $400 or $500 right off the bat is not my money. That goes to expenses. So I have to make up for that by selling even more to afford to pay the bills, right? Another thing, your living wages, income, whatever you want to call it. How expensive are your monthly, costs to just survive? Is your house payment $1,000, $2,000? Maybe you're renting, maybe it's $3,000. Like, it also varies from person to person, right? So if you're living a more comfortable lifestyle where you're able to live in a nice home, afford a nice car, paying bill after bills after bills, buying the best of the best out there, best clothes, you're not really gonna survive off making like 10, 20 G's on sales trying to live that lifestyle, because that lifestyle is way more expensive. Now, luckily for me and my family, our expenses are relatively low, okay? They've been low for the longest. Like, they're pretty low. Like, what I make in sales right now will cover everything that I need to pay the bills. And that's just me, sitting when I can, working when I can and whatnot. But as I start to scale and make more money from this business, I'm not gonna up my expenses either, okay? Because to keep this business running, and especially as a full-time seller, you have to make sure your business is growing as well. So again, it all depends on your bills also. Because on average, 20 to 30K a month is about 3G's profit or so, around there. Like, could you live off 3G's every single month? If the answer is yes, then those numbers make sense for someone to go full time. Now, for someone else who lives in maybe New York or something, and your expenses are way higher, then those numbers don't make sense whatsoever to survive, right? So again, you got to take that into consideration. Another thing, especially when you're going through the grind, going through the process, you have to learn to be able to take losses, okay? I've said this multiple times, and I'll say it again, but you have to be willing to take losses up front. And this is from making mistakes, sending the wrong products, listing it under the wrong ASIN or whatever, sending the wrong amount. Maybe you thought it was a 1-pack, but really it was a 2-pack. So now you have to recall, 100 units back to you, which also costs 50 cents just to have back per unit. So you also got to worry about that. That happened to me recently, actually. I messed up on one item that I sent in. The listing, I guess, changed or something. And I thought it was a 1-pack, and then it was actually a 2-pack. So I sent almost 200 units of these, and I had to recall every single one of them. Now, luckily, the sellers on this item have been falling and falling. So, I mean, it'll make up for itself, even with the fees that I had to pay to recall them back to me. But still, you got to be prepared for those type of things, because it happens. Now, imagine, I'm basically full-time, and I still made that mistake. So that's pretty insane. So imagine as a newbie how many mistakes you're going to make in the beginning. Like, you have to be willing to take those losses and go through them, because at the end of the day, guys, what it really takes to go as a full-time seller and succeed in this is basically, going through those mistakes, those losses, and either making you or breaking you. Because if you fall off and you decide, you know what, this ain't for me, then you're already one of those sellers who are, breaking off. But if you decide to hold on, stay in there, learn those mistakes, go through them, and just take those losses, then you'll go, you'll break through every other seller who isn't willing to do that. Okay, so again, you have to be willing to make those mistakes, those losses. You will lose some money in the process, okay? Like your first 2-3 months, whatever, you're probably not gonna make no money whatsoever after all office expenses. So be aware of that also. But again, I mean, it takes a normal business, I think, like 2 years to even be profitable. So yeah. Now, luckily with this Amazon business, you can escalate that even way faster, okay? But on average, that's about what it takes to make even a profit from the business. And well, what do you know? I quit 2 years after. So, I mean, that's just my experience though, okay? So now, sorry, excuse me, I'm a little congested. Now, another thing, again, it's just about endurance. Are you willing to handle it, go through the hassles, and learn the whole process? I mean, like I said, if you are, then hey, there it goes. Now, another thing to consider going full-time, I mean, how much money are you investing up front? Are you starting off with $500, $1,000, $5,000? Because this is also going to depend on what it takes to go full-time. If you start, obviously, like, this is that type of business model that I hate explaining to people because I sound like an MLM type of thing, but it really is true, guys. The more money you're willing to put into this business model, the more you will make, as long as you know what you're doing. And again, that sounds like some MLM pitch or whatever, but it's really the honest truth. The more you put into this business as far as money and even time, the more you will start to make. Like, again, I've said this multiple times, my story. I started with $1,000. Half of that went into just forming the LLC and buying supplies. So really, I only was stuck with $500 to even start this business. Now, going through that first year, you make a lot of mistakes. So that $500, I lost it, regained it, lost it again, and regained it again. But little by little, as I was learning, I started making more, and little by little, more and more and more. So obviously, it took me a while to scale that $1,000, initial investment to what it is today. Versus some people who I've seen in other groups, they'll start with $2,000, $5,000, maybe even $10,000, and they'll hit their first 100K within months. Like, it is possible to hit 100K within months if you start with a good amount of capital. And as long as you make your mistakes up front and you know what you're doing and whatnot, you'll easily achieve those goals. Those people, they'll easily go full-time within less than 2 years, if depending on their living expenses as well. But again, so it just varies from person to person, right? So again, this is what it's going to take to go full-time. Now, also, taxes, health insurance, all that stuff. When you work for a 9-to-5 employer, they basically cover all that for you. Unless you work at a real sucky job that doesn't provide insurance, health insurance, then you already know what it is. But health insurance, you got to cover that for your own self when you go full-time. Are you willing to pay those expenses? Can you afford it? Taxes, even if you make 20 G's at the end of the month, after all expenses and profit, a quarter of that's probably going to be taxed. So you really only made like 13, 14K at the end of the day after all expenses and taxes, right? So can you, and so again, so can you live on 14, 15K? Probably not, unless you live in the most poorest, downsized, place on the whole US. You probably really can't afford to survive on 14, 15K. So again, you need to take that into consideration, okay? Because it'll bite you in the ass. This year, since I'm going full time, my taxes will probably be all weirded up just because I had I'm gonna have a W-2 for my last job, and then I went full time at the end. So it'll probably be weird, But again, I'm gonna try to scale this business as much as I can throughout the year. So even if I have to pay taxes, hey, at least I made up for it by making more money. But yeah, so those are just a few, pointers, bullet points, whatever you want to call it, as far as going full time. Because again, all these gurus, they make it seem so easy, like it's, like it's a lifestyle and whatnot. But no, okay, like I said, unless you grew up in a rich, wealthy family out there who can back you up even if you fail, you're not gonna make it, and it's gonna be really hard to go full time. Okay, so again, take my tips, do what you will with them, take them into consideration before going into this, thinking it's gonna be easy peasy. I mean, it is. Like, it's a simple business model. Like, it's literally just buying stuff, prepping it, and sending it into Amazon, and literally just waiting for the money to come in. But it's just the beginning, where you have to do so much research, making the mistakes, learning the process itself, as far as even sending just shipments, that that's really hard. So if you can go through that barrier and make it past those mistakes and whatnot, you will achieve this. And again, you're gonna see how easy it really is. Like, it feels like kid work to me compared to my job. But I've said this multiple times, so you guys already know that. But yeah, so again, I won't take up too much of your time. We're already at 12 minutes right now. I'll try to make them sweet and short, but I also have to go into some deep detail so you guys get a better understanding of how this business model works. Because 9 out of 10 times, a lot of these dudes out here, all these influencers, they're not gonna tell you. Basically because they don't even know themselves. They just put in flashy crap out there, making it seem like they know what they're doing, but they really don't. A lot of them are just full of crap, honestly. But hey, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut, before someone comes at me, which honestly I don't care either. And yeah, so I'm gonna let you guys go. I just finished sourcing some stuff, doing a little RA today while I wait for a wholesale order, hopefully sometime this week. And yeah, we're just gonna keep sending shipments in, even if it's little by little. Scale the business, keep the money coming, growing. And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Later.